Hi everybody, welcome back. Today is yam planting day. So I thought I'd make a quick video and show you guys how to propagate yams. When I talk about yams, I'm not talking about sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are not yams. I'm talking about members of the Dioscorea group of yams, which are the true yams. Dioscorea species include the greater yam, the lesser yam, the prickly yam. I mean, there's a bunch of yams. Anyhow, I'm not going to get into all that. But chances are there is a yam near you. If you live anywhere from maybe zone 8, further on. If you live further up north, you might have the Chinese yam available, which can grow in even very cold conditions. But most of the yams are tropical species. But chances are there are some that you can get from a local market. Yams often are these great, big looking roots, like a big, kind of look like elephant skin on them or something, wrinkly, dark skinned usually. Some of them are tan, some of them are real dark. They're a great big root, but propagating them is a little different than other plants. They don't really have eyes on them like potatoes do, and they don't just kind of grow vines out of one end like a sweet potato will. But I'm going to show you today how to do it without any infrastructure and without fungicides and all that kind of jazz. I have right here a yam that I dug out of the riverbank last night. This is a lot lumpier than the yams you're likely to find in the local supermarket. The ones you're probably going to find are the Name yams. It's spelled N-A-M-E, like name. What is that? It's a name root. This is a wild, semi-wild form of Dioscorea alata. But if you had a big chunk of yam like this, it's pretty easy to propagate it. Get yourself a knife and cut some chunks off. Dip those chunks in ashes. Makes sense to make a fire a couple of days before you want ashes. That's what I did. And then I put the ashes aside in a bucket once they've cooled off and they're ready for doing this with. So you cut them up into pieces, dip them into ashes, and then I let them dry a little bit. Just spread them out and let them dry a little bit so the ashes stick well and they just don't brush off when you're planting them. Then what you do is get yourself either a big pot or plant them directly in the ground where you want them to go. If you go with the big pot method, you get a whole bunch of chunks, you plant them into a pot, or you can have a specially dedicated garden bed for the yams. Plant a ton of them real close together, and then as they sprout out of the ground, pry them out of the ground, pick a spot where you're going to put them long term and get them in. But you have to do that quickly because the vines will grow very fast and they'll all get tangled together and you'll have a huge mess there. So if you want to do it that way, just make sure when those vines start emerging and they're a few inches tall, you better get them in the ground quickly or you're going to have a mess. Otherwise, just dig and plant them where you want to keep them. The ashes will help act as a fungicide and they should keep some pests from burrowing into them. You will see online the propagation by Minisett method, which is what I'm showing you here. Often they are dipped into a bucket of fungicide and allowed to soak.
The minisetts are treated with an appropriate solution of fungicide and insecticide.
I'm not interested in putting fungicide onto there. I'd rather go with a natural form of ashes, even if I lose a few plants here and there. I'm not sure it's completely as effective as fungicide, but it does work and it's a traditional method that you'll see in Africa and South America and elsewhere. If you do have second year plants, all you have to do is plant the bulbils. These form on the vines of some species These are Dioscorea alata. Again, these are the bulbils from the gigantic root. These were laying on the ground around where I dug that root up. You can just take those and plant those and skip all the cutting and ashes and everything else. But a lot of you will not have access to bulbils the first year, and some species of yams never make bulbils, so they need to be propagated just by slicing the root up and putting it aside. They will make roots out of those roots. They'll make little feeder roots out of the sides of those chunks of roots and stick vines up faster than you might expect. But there is a long dormancy period on yams, and if you're coming to the end of it, which is March, April, then you're ready to go. You've got a root at that time of year, you cut it up, you plant it out in your garden, you should have vines very quickly. Oh, we dug some banks here, and these yams have been pieced up and then dipped in the ashes. There's multiple types here. There's the Lisbon yam, and there's the potato yam, and there's an early yam, which is the prickly yam in the first few rows here. And then all of these are going to be yams way up the mountainside. The ground is really hard, so forked it first with an old fork that had really sharp tines on it that my friend has, and then we chopped it up with a grub hoe and a grape hoe and dragged these banks, and as you can see, each one is sort of a little mound. So there's a pit that's dug, and then you drag the dirt from what's going to be the next walkway along here, and you drag it up, and you make each one of these is a little bit more of a mound over a deeper portion, so it looks like it's a straight row, but it's not. And these here, these are the drains that actually hold on to the water if the water starts rushing down later. And it's been very dry. It's been about 3 weeks of drought conditions. So there's not any water problems right now, but when the rain comes in, this is going to be really fine, and all these yams are going to shoot up. And we're probably going to get into the pump house here and get the pump running if we can, and get some water on these so we can beat the rain and get them going up ahead of time. It's looking pretty good. We're going to have a lot of yams, and there's a lot more over here that need to be planted. Got another bag right here. These 2 buckets are done. Another bag and a bucket, half a bucket somewhere. And then we'll take it out here and put them all out. Catch me on the web at thesurvivalgardener.com. I've got a big write-up on yams as a survival crop. I'll put a link to it in the description. And thanks for watching. Until next time, may your thumbs always be green. Wow, those are some weird ants or something. Termites? It's the tropics.
Yo, this is Dioscorea SPP on the mic.
And I'm Ipomia Batatas, fool, live in the studio dropping the beats, y'all.
People got a lot of confusion about us, mixing up what we is and isn't.
And we're both sick of it, so today we're gonna set it straight. Kick it. Ipomia Batatas, I got a lot of people calling me a yam, but that's a scam of marketers in the past who flubbed the task of proper classification to sell us across the nation of the USA. So now when they say yam, they think of orange roots in a can of thermonica that got kicked to the curb. It's absurd to call me a yam, Uncle Sam. We ain't even close to the same species. Let me unleash these rhymes and times to let you know the real difference between my sweet roots and the climate vines and shoots. I'm a friend of yam. Kick it on the mic, man.
Yeah. Yo, I'm Dioscorea. I got a 4-year cracks on my pedigree or history as we sleep across the world, boys and girls. Living on my car-rich roots. Shout out to Africa, where they laugh at ya. For even thinking that a sweet orange thing might be a yam, like claiming that a hippo is a lamb. It's crazy. Y'all have gotten hazy about the meaning of words, taxonomy of roots. The advan lose familiar terms. Makes it mean what they're not. What you got? What the true yam is a vine, that's a monocot. Growing up tree trunks and fences and anything else. Make the grip, we don't slip as we reach for the sunlight shining high.